Here at M0A, we are taking a second look at some of our most important videos and safety tips. Today, we are diving into 3 things your CFI isn't telling you about landing.
So what I want to share with you in this clip is 3 bits of action you can take. Really 3 things that maybe your CFI isn't sharing with you. And it's not because you don't have a great CFI. It's just because maybe your CFI teaches with a different style. Or maybe your CFI, knows this but doesn't know how to explain it to you, and I want to share that with you with my over 8,000 hours of giving dual instruction and helping students with landings. I've got 3 tips that I know are going to make your landings that much easier. And the first is this: it's airspeed. You've got to know your airspeeds, and it's one thing to know them, it's another thing to nail them. Here's an example. On downwind I like to be 90, on base I like to be 80, and on final I like to be 70, and continuing to slow as I cross over the airport fence. I'm pitching for airspeed, I'm powering for altitude. Airspeed is king.
Let's revisit this one together, but with some added insight. Landings are mandatory, but also remember you can always go around. The go around must be a mandatory and the landing would be the second choice. We like to say that airspeed is king. Absolutely. If we have a stable approach with 65 or 70 knots in our approach speed, airspeed will be the king. But remember, the approach itself is also very important. We want to keep altitude. Altitude, I would say, if airspeed is king, altitude is queen, because you can always trade some altitude for some airspeed. However, if you're coming low, you're coming slow, there's not much stuff to trade.
The second big tip that I believe maybe your CFI isn't telling you is it's all about where you put your eyes. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a landing where you feel like the ground snuck up on you? You're coming in, everything's looking good, the next thing you know, there's the ground, and you meet the ground and you weren't expecting it. Chances are if you hit the ground and you weren't expecting it, you need to take your eyes further down the runway. You have too small of a perspective. You need to take those eyes 300, 400, 500 feet, look towards the tree line if that's what it takes. Take your eyes down the runway. Landings are all about perspective and all about where you put your eyes.
Transitioning from a nose-down attitude into the round out and slowly getting into the ground effect is as important as keeping the same airspeed. Remember, we can remove the word flare, but we should keep the word ground effect. It's mandatory to understand that we need to enter the ground effect and benefit from it.
The third thing is this, and this is going to be the hardest one for you to do because it is ingrained in each and every one of us as pilots. It's to lose the word flare from your vocabulary. What do I mean by this? Well, a 737 on landing flares. The space shuttle back in its heyday flared on landing. A Cherokee 140, a Cessna 172 does not flare per se. Instead, let's replace that with the word transition. Guys, why do we practice slow flight? We practice slow flight to learn how to control the airspeed, or control the airplane at its minimum controllable airspeed. Right before you touch down, you are effectively in a phase of slow flight. Now think about it. In slow flight, in the dirty configuration with flaps, where is the nose? Well, it's certainly not as high as it was in slow flight. In the clean configuration with flaps, I'm not saying don't have a nose-high attitude. I'm not saying have a 3-point landing. I am saying touch the main wheels down first, followed very quickly by the nose wheel. What I'm saying is lose the word flare, because when you think of the word flare, you think of bringing that yoke all the way back to your chest. You're just coming in like this. If you're in a position where you can't see the runway when you're coming in to land, you're pitched up way too much. That's the problem, okay? So keep that nose coming down and transition. Transition into slow flight on your landing and hold it off. Bleed off that airspeed and bring it on in. Those are 3 huge tips that are going to help you so much with your landings, guys.
Also, when we're talking about transition, we can say that we're transitioning all the way from an approach which has a nose down attitude into a slow flight, right? That's why we practice slow flights. So if you remember, as Jason said, when you practice a slow flight in a clean configuration, you have a higher angle of attack. However, when you're approaching to land and you're just a couple feet above the runway, we don't need to keep that high of an angle of attack because we're fully configured, full flaps in order to land. Eye placement is also very important. What I like to do is, we have two types of vision, right? We have the central vision and the peripheral vision. So why not use your central vision to keep those center lines in the middle of the cooling to make sure that we are aligned with the center lines and with the middle of the runway. Also, at the same time, use your peripheral vision so you can look to the side to judge the altitude from the runway. If you know that you are high from the runway, just keep the nose up, either increase the back pressure or hold the pressure, never release it. However, if you're very close to the runway, just by holding the back pressure, if you're already at the nose up attitude, that should be enough to come to a smooth landing. Talking about looking further than the runway, 300 and 500 feet should be okay. However, remember, sometimes you will be landing on a shorter runway and these adjustments has to be made. So, if you have any of your own tips, let us know in the comments below. We love to hear your feedback and your personal experiences as well. It doesn't matter if you're a student pilot who just soloed or you have a couple thousand hours under your belt. Remember, a good pilot is always learning. See you next time.